Hi, Abraham. The question is, why is it that the male species is the one that seems to do the most, atrocious things, like, war, whatever, rape, whatever. And I do not believe that way, but I see it and I also hear a lot of it. So I just wanted, what was your view on that?
Do you see it in all species or only human? Or do you see it in most species or only human?
I'd say most species.
And so, as you think about the lion, the male is protecting, gathering food.
Correct.
The female is birthing, nurturing.
Correct.
So they've come forth in balance, all with individual perspectives or intentions for the balance or good of the whole.
Right.
As we view the energy of your planet, we do not see male energy as more disconnected energy than female energy. In other words, there are not more disconnected men than there are disconnected women.
Correct.
We think that what you're asking about is a product of your environment where over time, by nature, males are larger and stronger. And so it is logical that they would take up more position of defense. And it is logical that as they practice positions of defense, they practice justifying the defense, which means they practice offense, which means they get it activated in their vibration. And it probably is stronger with male than female because of the orientation within the society.
Right.
Sometimes people will say, how does non-physical view male or female? And we say, when we see you in your spiritual basis, the male and female energy is equal within every part of you. In other words, males have every bit as much capacity to love,
correct,
and females have every bit as much capacity to hate. We do not think it is a female or male issue.
Right.
We think it is an individual in the moment determining of what I'm giving my attention to. In your society, it is not easy to be a gentle male because males who are not gentle, who are more aggressive in nature, find fault with you, push against you, make fun of you, try to provoke you, and often do. If you were standing in a place where you were wanting more than anything to feel good, you would practice not being provoked, and you would drop off of their radar screen. In other words, you would become a non-issue. But if you worry about them and activate that in your vibration, then you are a part of what they are about. Again, having said all of this, we now would just as soon you forget all of it and say, nothing is more important than that I feel good. And we would not spend any time at all trying to view the world, catalog and pigeonhole it, call it male or female, call it aggressive or not aggressive. In other words, we would say things like, in an effort to get more air for ourselves or more connection, we would say things like, everybody's knowing the best that they know how to do, everybody's a product of their environment, both non-physical and physical. Many people are not reading their personal stance through their emotional center. Many people are not using their individual guidance, although it is available to them, and more are. It's not my job to figure it all out. It's not anybody's job to figure it all out. It doesn't need to be all figured out. It's working very well. In other words, this is an environment where there are far more moments of happiness and well-being experienced by the majority of you than not. In other words, things are going enormously well. Enormously well. As Jerry and Esther were driving, and they were motivated to conversation and thought, seeing all of the caravans of military equipment moving down the highway and seeing the signs that said, do not pick up hitchhikers, for there is a prison in the area, and seeing all of the different prisons along the landscape, Jerry commented that this is a nation that has become seen by much of the world, and rightly so, as rather aggressive. And then he was commenting on something that he had read or heard about what a high percentage of this nation is incarcerated for one reason or another. And he commented to Esther that people from other nations, as they are viewing this nation through those statistics, probably get a sense of it that is quite different from the experience that Jerry and Esther live. And Esther said, I never move around feeling anything other than absolute freedom. And yet, if we were being viewed from another country, we would probably be seen as not all that free. And then Esther thought, it was a sort of whirlwind of thought that rushed through her. She said, I bet I have a whole lot of misconceptions about other countries where we've heard about their leadership or we've heard about their practices, and I have felt fearful for their people, when they may very well be living, the most of them, well, just like the most of us are living well. And then she got thinking about the world in general and how free it really is, and how there are people in villages and cities all over the place that are having their experiences, that are more interested in what's happening to them on an individual basis than they really are affected by what's happening politically. And so as you begin to withdraw from the world view and you stop trying to figure it all out and you give your full attention to your individual view, always reaching for what feels good, you begin to discover that you have a very happy life. And then people from the outside, maybe some of those aggressive ones, may say to you, but wait, you are living a very narrow life. You need to look broader. And you say, I can look broad and I can look narrow. I can look near and I can look far, but I've looked close up to the well-being of my life experience until I've practiced activating the vibration of well-being. And once I get that really habitually in place with me, then I will look out into the greater world. And we say, and when you do, you will see beauty. When you do, you will see wonder. When you do, you will see balance. When you do, you will see well-being. This is an environment of extraordinary well-being. We would let nothing dissuade us from that knowledge, because that knowledge is core knowledge. It has always been that way, and it will always be that way. Well-being reigns in this environment.
I'm an engineer, and my son is going to be going into high school, and I'm not quite sure how to discuss with him that the focus of his life should be doing what feels good. And I don't know quite how to do that. And then thinking down the line, I mean, I think it's important he go to college. And if I emphasize do what feels good, he might not choose that. How do you handle that?
It'd be awful if he followed his bliss instead of yours.
Well, how do you weigh that?
Well, this will help you. If you say to someone, do what feels good, there are a lot of people that would worry about you giving someone that permission to begin with. One of the songs on this music presentation that Jerry is telling you about says, I can do anything, 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 anything. I can do anything that I want to. And it is sung in such a lovely melody, I can do anything, 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 anything at all. And every time Esther hears it, she says, I can do anything, anything, anything. She doesn't mean I can do anything. She is singing it almost defiantly, like, you're not the boss of me. I can do anything. She's being playful about it. But the reason that we are bringing this up to you is because when you say to someone, do what pleases you, almost all who are hearing are translating that out to mean, I'm not going to do anything that pleases anybody else. And that isn't what you mean, because sometimes pleasing others is your path of least resistance. Sometimes getting an education is your path of least resistance. As we said earlier, it depends upon what your intentions are. If you want to have an expansive experience, sometimes that education is the key to more of that experience. In other words, it's the easiest way to get to where you're wanting to go. And so what you're wanting to convey to your children or to anyone that you care about, or even remember yourself, is that when you first identify what your dominant desire is, and then you ask yourself, what is the path of least resistance? Then it is not difficult to know what are the best choices. What happens with so many children is they are accustomed to receiving the majority of their good through the avenue that is called parent, which means they learn early on that they have to stay in some sort of vibrational sync with parents in order for that to be a forthcoming experience. And so they give up, and their parents take from them, neither one realizing that it's happening, a certain amount of self-guidance early on. Your children are often guided early on by what they think you want more than they are guided by what they want. Now, it doesn't have to be a different thing, because after all, you want them to be happy too. You want them to have the success of joy. You want their life to unfold in a way that will be pleasing to them. And you would give all of that to them if you could, but you can't. And the more that you try to take your knowledge and superimpose it over them, the less likely they are to ever gain their own knowledge, you see. And so the earlier that you can say to them, you've got guidance within you. And I know that guidance is there because I've seen evidence, you say to them. And what that guidance is to let you know what is your path of least resistance, which means what is the path to the fulfillment of who you really are. And we would say, I, as your father, always want you to do what feels best to you, even if what feels best to you feels like it isn't what I would choose for you. I would far rather you exercise your ability to choose, because how else are you going to know what your guidance is telling you? Because I'm not always going to be there. I'm always going to be hoping for you. I'm always going to be rooting for you, but I'm not always going to be right there. And your guidance system is. Give us some examples of some things that you were worried about, that if he follows his bliss or his joy or does what he feels like doing, might ultimately lead him to a bad place or to a place you don't want him to be.
Well, I don't know that I have a specific example, because actually I think he does have a good guidance system.
We think so too.
It's a little scary to try to explain that.
Now listen to what you did here, because you made a statement that was deliberately reaching for the path of least resistance. You said, I think he does have a good guidance system. And then you made a statement that was deliberately reaching for the path of more resistance, but it's a little scary. When you say, he's got a good head on his shoulders, that's a path of least resistance. When you say, but he doesn't always use it, that's a path of more resistance. All you're wanting to do is see him in as least resistant way as you can. And in doing so, you know what you will impart to him? Belief in him, trust in him.
Yes.
Acknowledgement that he knows, that he's wise, that he's smart, that you trust him. And you know, when you activate that in someone, oh, the good that does. When you convey to someone your belief in their ability to do something, they show you over and over and over and over and over again that you were right.
Yes.
And when you activate within someone the belief that they can't, they'll show you that too.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. One more. Often I can feel, I guess, the connection between all of us, but I don't really understand it. Would you be able to describe what this connection is? For example, a decision I would make, does that affect someone I don't know? Is that a question? Does that make any sense? I mean, how are we connected, I guess?
We're going to speak it to you from the perspective of law of attraction. And then we will try to speak it from different vantage points, which is harder to hear. It's harder for you to understand how it all fits together from your vantage point than it is from the vantage point of your inner being. Everything matches up, everything. And so when we say everything is connected to everything, we don't mean that everything is connected to everything. We mean that everything is vibrating, and what is vibrational matching is connecting to that which is vibrational matching. Law of attraction is sorting it all out, you see. So you have this multitude of vibrations going on within you at all times relative to different subjects. So your radio signal is multi-layered, and you are living life on many layers. In other words, you may have a very strong sense of self and a very strong sense of purpose. And you may, because of that, you may be moving safely through life. In other words, you have risen above any real trauma or any accidents or anything like that. In other words, your vibrational nature is one of moving safely through life. But you may have become recently fixated on the inconvenience of something or other, and you've got it activated in your life because it's right in front of you. And instead of taking the path of least resistance, you're just observing what is. So as you observe what is, you've activated that little negative thing in your vibration, something not very significant. So you move through life and you're still safe, and your world mostly still goes well, but things that are inconvenient just keep popping up all over the place, because law of attraction is matching you to them because it is part of your vibration. So it can become a bit complex, even impossible to analyze and understand. Even your fastest and biggest computer could not sort it all out. Law of attraction can. What we encourage is that rather than trying to sort it all out, that you just keep, from where you stand, reaching for the path of least resistance. If you're in a restaurant and that's where you've decided to eat, make the best of it.